It's been an interesting offseason, to say the least. The one thing the Arizona Cardinals need to upgrade the most, I'm going to tell you about it. Locked On Cardinals. Here we go.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Locked On Cardinals. Alex Clancy here after a hiatus yesterday. Hope everybody had an enjoyable Memorial Day, took the time to remember those. And I needed to take a day and, decompress, take some time to myself. And I am back today. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day, free and available on all platforms. I am here every day for you, for Arizona Cardinals talk. And every day seems to keep getting better. The Arizona Cardinals have one huge upgrade they need to make this offseason, and I'm going to tell you about it. It's not something that is a transactional move. It's not something that has to do with a contract extension, and it's not something that we've seen from the Cardinals when it's been needed the most, and I'm going to talk about it. First, we need to discuss, just briefly give it its time, but Arizona Cardinals cornerback Jeff Gladney passed away late Sunday night, early Monday morning. Car accident is what the report was from multiple outlets. It's just terrible. I wasn't going to do any sort of tweet aside from seeing, a quote tweeted Jordan Schultz. But it's just such a terrible thing for a 25-year-old to pass away, period, let alone the way that it happened. Didn't even know him yet here in Arizona. And it was just, it's just sad. I'm 38, kind of puts things into perspective. Like I think I'm old. People say, oh, you're still young. I'm 25. Obviously, you'd never want anybody to pass away in that way or any way that's outside of natural causes, by, in your 90s. But it's just a total gut punch, reality check, telling your parents that you love them, telling your siblings that you love them, telling your friends that you love them. Just weird, man. And I'm not going to get deep into it. That's not really, I just stick to football and the Arizona Cardinals. I don't dabble in politics. I don't dabble in other things like that, surrounding the sport. I feel like you can get that information elsewhere, and I'm not well-versed enough to talk about it. So I only talk about what I think I'm well-versed enough to talk about. And I just do think that doing a short segment here, just acknowledging the loss of a 25-year-old who just joined the Arizona Cardinals in a brutal way, it's just terrible. It's just terrible. And I do think that the one way that I could show my, pay my, acknowledging of it in a respectful way is do a small first segment just about this, and then I'll move on. And there's no easy way to transition into the most important thing the Arizona Cardinals need to upgrade this offseason. I'm going to talk about that next. Again, Jeff Gladney, gone too soon at 25, died in a car crash late Sunday, early Monday morning. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. I will be right back. RockAuto.com. There's one thing that I do know that I don't know about, and that's cars. With the ever-increasing, numbers of makes and models, it's impossible to keep up, and it's also impossible for chain storefront places to have all this stuff in stock. Okay, so I circumvent, because I've tried, I've gone, and I've asked questions, and I feel awkward. I feel like a dummy because I don't know anything about my car. That's where Rock Auto comes in. So you don't have to drive down there to the chain storefront. Gas prices are ridiculous. You can do it you can go in your jammies on your computer, go to rockauto.com, be like, hey man, they got everything I need. Their prices are reliably low. They're a family-owned business. They've been online for 20 years. It's really all you need to know. They're not going to upcharge you 30, 50, even 100% more like a chain storefront would. That's pretty much everything. You just type in what you need. 2 days later, 3 days later, boom, at your doorstep. They have everything you need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet, everything. Go explore the easy way to use the website today to find the solution for all your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck, right? Locked on in there. How did you hear about us box? So they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices. All the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Second segment, Locked On Cardinals. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Thank you to everybody who subscribes, likes, does everything. YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn the notifications on. You can leave a review if you want on Apple or wherever you get your podcast. Whatever you want to do, I'm here for you 5 days a week talking Arizona Cardinals in hopefully an interesting and original way. If this is your first time listening, thank you. Why not make tomorrow your second? If this is the third time listening this week, thank you. And why not make, that's statistically impossible. If you listen 2 to 3 times a week, make Friday your fourth. Really struggling with math today. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. I'm just showing up every day to give you the best content possible surrounding the Arizona Cardinals and the NFL. You can also check me out Thursdays on the Locked On NFL National Show with Tyler Rowland from Locked On Titans. We go nuts over there, and we have a really good time doing it. So enough teasing. The biggest upgrade the Arizona Cardinals need to make this offseason is in their mental toughness. And, it seems like that's obviously that would lead to their ability to, to shore up a substantial win-loss record during the second half of the season, like they did last season, or like they didn't do last season. And mental toughness is tough. Mental toughness is tough. It's difficult to be Tiger Woodsy between the ears when you're on the golf course. It's tough to have the mental fortitude to be able to block out noise, get jobs done, and you're on a 3-game losing streak and you need a W. That's where mental toughness comes in. And it's been an interesting offseason. And I'm not talking about, Jeff Gladney just suddenly passing away. That's not what this is about. I'm talking about really which adds to it, obviously. Like, I'm not diminishing by one iota. It's the contract negotiations with Kyler Murray in the front office. It's DeAndre Hopkins getting suspended. It's uncertainty with the roster. It's uncertainty with the contract extensions for Steve Keim and Kliff Kingsbury. It's a lot of moving parts, man. It's a lot of moving parts. And this comes with the spotlight that the Cardinals were under last year. A lot of it, limelight. Some of it, big, shiny, bright light of, oh man, are they really going to falter? Are they really going to go from 7-0 and 10-2 to Kyler Murray throwing an underhand pick 6 in the playoff game against the Rams? Like, is that really what we're witnessing right now watching this organization? And it was. And this is the first time in a while, in a long time, maybe ever, that a young star quarterback was leading this team. Because, Kurt Warner was a vet deep into his veteranship. Carson Palmer, same thing. So when the Cardinals made the Super Bowl with Kurt Warner and the NFC Championship game with Carson Palmer during his MVP caliber season, they were seasoned veterans. And Kyler Murray ain't that. Kyler Murray still got learning to do. He's still got a curve to follow that a young quarterback follows. So it's a mixture of they started 7-0 and 10-2, didn't finish the season so hot. You can blame Kliff Kingsbury. You can blame Steve Keim for not building out a roster that's so top-heavy, and you can blame Kyler Murray. Yeah, whatever you want to do. We do that enough. I'm not going to do that today. We do know that the mental strength of this organization is not where it needs to be. It's obvious. It's obvious. That's not a hot take. It's obvious that this team somewhere has a severe crack in the foundation regarding the mental capacity to absorb adversity and flourish through it. We've seen it. And that's what we witnessed firsthand last year. A slow motion tumbling of a snowball from the top of the hill down to the bottom of, like, No. Are they really going to lose to Detroit? Is this really happening? Are they really going to give up a two-game lead in the NFC West with a handful of games to play? Are they really not going to be able to clinch the division on their own? That's the biggest jump that needs to happen next year. It's everybody's included, especially Kyler Murray and Kliff Kingsbury. I'm not going to say in what specific order. This isn't that kind of show today. The mental strength needs to be upgraded more than anything else in 2022. How are they going to do that? I'm going to tell you next. Locked On Cardinals. Final segment, Locked On Cardinals. Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day. Free and available on all platforms. Mental strength. Mental strength. Mental strength. And I am talking specifically inside the lines, in the locker room, in the film room, around football. I'm not talking about mental health. I'm talking about mental strength. This is a football podcast, and I'm sticking to that specifically. Okay? It's important to understand the distinction. The mental strength that comes with the physical strength that yields a star football player is something that the Cardinals were lacking last year. It was, and it was obvious. So how can the Cardinals improve and upgrade the mental strength needed to put together a full 17-game season? It's not simple, but it's basic. It's not easily executed, but the roadmap is there. The roadmap is simple. The roadmap is basic, but it's not easy to execute. And the roadmap is this. Kliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray, Budda Baker, Byron Murphy, Rodney Hudson. Those are the names. Those are the ones. Those are the pillars. Okay? And they're pillars in different ways. Kliff Kingsbury is the head coach of an NFL organization. He needs to act like it for 17 weeks. I mean, and I've talked plenty about Kliff. I'm not going to go into it. We know why I think Kliff Kingsbury is ill-equipped to be the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. I've talked about it. And just because the win total has gotten bigger and bigger since he's come in, it wasn't hard to improve upon the 2018 season. What the Cardinals did in 2021 was a fireable offense, in my opinion, ending the season the way they did, and Kliff Kingsbury was at the helm. Okay? That's my thought process on that. Kyler Murray, he needs to continue to grow up. And by grow up, I don't mean he's immature in the way that others think he may be immature. Just because he's quiet and just because he's been demonstrative when the Cardinals haven't played well on the sidelines, that's not an original thing. He's a young quarterback that's on the learning curve of becoming a star quarterback for 17 weeks. It's becoming more and more difficult to gauge how good a young quarterback is because there have been a handful recently that have just broken the mold. You know, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson before his injury concerns. You know, I mean, that's not how it's normally supposed to happen. So Kyler Murray is on the path, but he needs to take that next step. He needs to take the I deserve $280 million contract step this season. Needs to happen. Why is that? Why is mental strength tied to that? Because all of it is mental strength for him. Sure, he can improve upon, stepping up in the pocket. He can improve upon going through his progression before just tucking it and running. Sure, it's an ongoing growth mission for a quarterback to get better at the actual physical attributes of the game. But the mental stuff, we've got to see the leap. And this isn't saying that he's not where he's supposed to be now. I think he's exactly where he's supposed to be. Next season, he's got to be exactly where he's supposed to be through 4 years. And that is going to take a huge step in the right direction for him if the Cardinals' mental strength in the quarterback position is going to be where it needs to be for them to succeed through 17 weeks and then into the playoffs. So I guess 18 weeks into the playoffs. Budda Baker. Budda Baker is pound for pound tied with another one who I'm going to mention as the most important person on the NFL, on the Cardinals roster, quarterback aside. Okay. Budda Baker, it's time for him to continue what he's doing. I trust Budda Baker's mental acumen more than anybody else on the roster. Yeah. Acumen like mental strength, mental toughness. Look at how he plays. There's no question that he's locked in every single time he's on the field. And that's, again, not to say others aren't. But it's obvious that mental strength has been a low point for the Cardinals when they absolutely need wins. I trust Budda Baker more than I trust anybody else on this roster. Byron Murphy. Byron Murphy, it is so important for Byron Murphy to take that leap. And it's not necessarily his, we don't know if he's a CB1. What we do know is he took a huge step from 2020 to 2021. He did. And the whole team kind of fell apart towards the second half of the season. We don't really know why. Byron Murphy needs to take that next step. And this was put upon him by Steve Keim because they didn't draft a corner. They haven't drafted a corner in the top 2 rounds. I thought they should have drafted a corner 2 years ago. I thought they could have drafted a corner at 23 overall. But they didn't. So Byron Murphy is now the de facto CB1. And obviously this is tough talking about it with Jeff Gladney just passing away. It wasn't levered. I thought this before. Okay. Byron Murphy was a CB1. Okay. So this next step he needs to take in his progression, if he wants a second contract with or if the Cardinals see him as deserving of a second contract to stay with the team, we've got to see that next step. He's got to be the guy that can be relied upon every week. I refuse to say week in and week out. I refuse to. Every week. That's the step. And then finally, in no particular order, Rodney Hudson. Rodney Hudson is probably the most important player on the roster, not named Kyler Murray. I had Mike Golick Jr. on a week and a half ago. He talks about Rodney Hudson like teenagers in the 50s talked about the Beatles. Mike Golick Jr. played offensive line through his high school and college career. He sees Rodney Hudson as an absolute all-pro everything. And he is. And we saw what happened last year when Rodney Hudson was out. Rodney Hudson makes the guards' jobs easier. Rodney Hudson gives the depth necessary for Kyler Murray to be able to stay in the pocket. Rodney Hudson is somebody, he's a set it and forget it kind of guy. He's a set it and forget it kind of guy. And the Cardinals desperately need him to maintain that. And the mental toughness will come with the roster around it. Those 5, Kliff, Kyler, Budda, Byron Murphy, and Rodney Hudson, those 5 need to lead the way for this mental toughness upgrade to work. It's the pillars. I use pillars a lot. It's the pillars. It's the studs in the wall. I think I'm terrible at construction. That's not cars and building things. It's just not. I got the sports gene. That's what I got. They need to be the constants when it comes to balancing when adversity hits to maintain as close to equilibrium as possible. Yeah. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. I'll talk to you tomorrow.